I'm here to create original song lyrics for you. Would you like me to write a song inspired by the romanticism and emotional depth of Austen's novels? If so, please give me a bit more direction or a specific topic, and I'll craft some engaging lyrics for you.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into a classic, Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility.
Austen. Always a treat.
It really is. Now, for our listeners who may not be as familiar, we're going to unpack the story of the Dashwood sisters, explore their personalities.
Their challenges.
Exactly. And of course, their romantic journeys, all set against the backdrop of 19th century England. We'll be focusing on the Gutenberg edition. Get ready for some juicy details and, well, maybe a few surprises along the way.
I do love a good literary surprise.
All right. So, Sense and Sensibility, what's the core, the essence of it all? Why do we keep coming back to this story?
Well, for me, it's how Austen personifies those very concepts, sense and sensibility, through the two sisters, Elinor and Marianne.
And how those approaches to life kind of shape their destinies.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive into the story. We start with a family in turmoil, right? Mr. Dashwood has passed away.
And his estate, Norland Park, goes to his son from a previous marriage, John Dashwood.
Leaving his second wife and their three daughters, Elinor, Marianne, and Margaret, in a bit of a predicament, financially speaking.
Oh, quite a predicament. It really highlights the vulnerability of women at that time, so dependent on men for financial security.
Absolutely. And to make matters worse, John Dashwood's wife, Fanny, she's not exactly the most compassionate person.
Oh, Fanny. You have to give Austen credit for creating such a brilliantly awful character.
Right. She's manipulative.
Greedy.
And ultimately persuades John to go back on his promise to help his stepmother and half-sisters.
Austen really knows how to set up a conflict.
She does.
Yeah.
So the Dashwood women, they're forced to leave their beloved Norland. They relocate to a more modest home in Devonshire.
Wharton Cottage, offered by a distant relative, Sir John Middleton.
A big change from the grandeur of Norland.
A definite downsize. But this move, it's symbolic. It marks a turning point for them, a new chapter.
A new chapter filled with challenges, but also growth. This is where we really see Elinor and Marianne's personalities shine through.
In very different ways.
So we have Elinor, 19 years old. She's the picture of sense. Practical, level-headed, always composed.
Even in the face of, well, everything going on.
She really is the anchor for her family. Then there's Marianne, 16, full of sensibility. Passionate, romantic, and wears her heart on her sleeve, you could say.
Oh, absolutely. Marianne feels everything so deeply.
It's like Austen's is presenting these two different paths for women of that era.
Almost like two sides of the same coin, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. And their approaches to love, well, that's a whole other story. But before we jump into that, let's not forget the colorful cast of characters they encounter at Barton Cottage.
Oh, they're a lively bunch.
We have Sir John Middleton, well-meaning but a bit clueless.
And his wife, Lady Middleton, so elegant but quite reserved.
And then, of course, there's the irrepressible Mrs. Jennings.
Ah, Mrs. Jennings. Always up to something.
Always trying to play matchmaker, stir in the pot.
It's through her meddling, though, that we meet the two men who will capture Elinor and Marianne's attention.
Two very different men.
Leading to two very different love stories.
Now, Marianne, being the romantic soul that she is immediately captivated by Willoughby.
Dashing, charming, loves poetry and music.
Seems perfect, right? Remember that scene where he rescues her after she twists her ankle?
Oh, so romantic. But we all know appearances can be deceiving.
Oh, definitely. Elinor, meanwhile, she's drawn to Edward Ferrars, Fanny's brother.
Kind, intelligent.
But he's got this air of melancholy about him.
He's a bit of an enigma.
And Elinor, in her sensible way, she's intrigued. But is he truly worthy of her affections?
That's the question, isn't it?
We'll have to see how it all unfolds.
And as these relationships, develop, we see Elinor and Marianne's different approaches to love play out.
Marianne, she doesn't hold back, does she? With Willoughby, she's so open with her affection.
It's beautiful in a way. But knowing what we know as readers, it's also a bit,
heartbreaking.
Exactly. Because, we're not sure Willoughby's intentions are as pure as Marianne thinks.
Right. Makes you wonder if Austen is maybe giving us cautionary tale about, well, excessive sensibility.
Especially for women in that society. But it's interesting, because Austen doesn't portray sensibility as a bad thing. Not inherently. I mean, Marianne's passion, her depth of feeling, it's what makes her so compelling.
It's true. And then you have Elinor, who is much more guarded with Edward.
observing him carefully.
trying to figure him out.
But her own feelings, oh, she keeps those close to the vest?
It's partly her personality, of course.
Yeah.
But you also have to think about the societal pressures on women at the time. Any outward display of emotion, it was frowned upon.
Especially for young, unmarried women.
So Elinor, her sense dictates that she behaves properly, even if it means, well, hiding her true feelings.
Which makes what happens next even more, well...
Devastating.
Oh, absolutely. Willoughby, he just up and leaves for London,
Out of the blue.
leaving Marianne utterly heartbroken.
And confused. She doesn't understand why he's changed so suddenly.
It's a harsh lesson for her. A wake-up call about, the complexities of human nature.
That not everyone is as sincere as she is.
Exactly. But amidst all of this, Elinor is also carrying a secret. A big one.
Remember Lucy Steele?
Oh, yes. The seemingly harmless friend from Barton Cottage.
Well, she confides in Elinor about her secret engagement. And guess who it's to?
No, not Edward.
Edward, can you imagine?
Poor Elinor. Talk about a tough situation.
And it really is. She's bound by this promise to keep Lucy's secret, even though it's just, killing her inside.
I can't even imagine the strength it took to handle all of that with such grace, always putting others first.
But then things take another turn. Mrs. Jennings whisks the Dashwood sisters off to London.
Oh, London. A whole different world.
A whirlwind of society, parties.
And new challenges. Marianne, of course, she's hoping for a reunion with Willoughby.
But at a grand ball.
He just rejects her. Publicly.
It's brutal. Her dreams are shattered. Her idealized vision of Willoughby gone.
It's another harsh lesson, but it forces her to confront reality.
And Elinor. Well, being in London, it just makes things worse with Lucy.
Because Lucy's constantly going on about Edward.
And Elinor has to just sit there, smile, and pretend everything's okay.
It's just awful. The irony of it all.
But then Marianne's heartbreak. It takes its toll. She falls seriously ill.
And it's actually Colonel Brandon who steps up.
Colonel Brandon.
Yes, he rushes to get Mrs. Dashwood, risks his own health to help Marianne.
Which is such a contrast to Willoughby, isn't it? He disappears at the first sign of trouble. But Colonel Brandon, he proves his devotion.
It really makes you think about, what true love really means. And as Marianne, recovers, she starts to see Colonel Brandon differently. I mean, he's so dependable.
Such a contrast to Willoughby.
Right. And Marianne, she starts to appreciate that, his kindness, his steadiness. It's like she's rethinking what love really means.
It's a real turning point for her.
Absolutely. But Elinor, poor Elinor, she's still trapped in this...
secret.
Yeah, Lucy's engagement. And it's just eating away at her.
Especially as she sees Edward, and how unhappy he seems.
It's heartbreaking. But then something unexpected happens. Lucy...
She spills the beans.
Well, sort of. She announces that she's not engaged to Edward anymore.
What? But why?
Well, it turns out she's got her eye on someone else, Edward's brother, Robert. He's come into some money, you see.
Oh, Lucy. Always the opportunist.
Right, but here's the thing. This actually frees Edward. He's no longer bound by this forced engagement.
So he can finally
pursue his true love.
And he does. He goes straight to Elinor, declares his love, proposes.
It's so beautiful after everything they've been through.
And Marianne.
Well, she continues to heal, not just physically, but emotionally, too.
And she realizes that Colonel Brandon, he's the one.
The one who truly cares for her. It's a love that's, based on more than just fleeting passion.
It's about respect, shared values.
Exactly. So both sisters, they find happiness, but in different ways.
Elinor, guided by sense, finds a love built on mutual understanding. And Marianne, her sensibility, it matures.
She learns that true love, it runs deeper than just, romantic ideals.
It's about finding someone who truly sees you, accepts you.
And that's what's so brilliant about Sense and Sensibility. It's not about choosing sense over sensibility or vice versa.
It's about finding that balance within ourselves.
That blend of head and heart, which I think is something we can all relate to, right?
Absolutely. We all have a bit of Elinor and Marianne in us.
Trying to navigate life's complexities, trying to find our own path to happiness.
And maybe that's what Austen is trying to tell us. Embrace both sides, find that balance, and you'll find true fulfillment.
It's a timeless message, and one worth remembering, I think.
I agree. So until next time, happy reading, everyone.